logical. Wait, what?
Hey everyone, welcome back. So we left last episode with Sarah and I tying up the hull of the kayak and the forms in place. It is a lot easier to get someone to help you with some of these steps. You could do it by yourself, but it's going to be pretty difficult. So in this episode, we're going to try to get the sides put on the kayak and even the deck put on top. So it will be nowhere near finished, in fact, but we'll be able to see kind of the shape of the kayak hopefully by the end of this episode, and see what it's going to look like. So let's just get straight into it and see how we get on. Okay, next we're going to affix the side panels to the wood duck. So the first thing to do is to attach the top of the side panel loosely to the top of the forms and the bulkhead. And then once that's loosely together, start stitching the bottom along from the middle going out. Now I've found the easiest way to do this, I actually had to put this side on and take it off a few times because I got it around the wrong way. So I've had a few practices at this. The easiest way is to put your copper wire through the form and twist it in. And then when we lift up the side, we'll just be able to insert those pieces through into the next side. And the instructions call for then wiring together, the stitching together the bottom of the hole from the middle, working towards the outside of the boat. I'm guessing one on each side as you move further out to remain uniform, but I found that things just moved around too much. So I'm going to stitch in place the rear bulkhead and the stern or the aft form here. Sorry, it's a stern form. First, and then once I've got those in place, then I will start from the middle and move out. All right, I'm going to leave it there for the day. Got the sides mostly on. They definitely need to be tightened up, but much the same with the bottom. I think I'm just going to leave it in place for 24 hours or so and just let the wood sort of get used to that curve that it's now sitting in, and much the same as with the hull of it. I think that's going to make tightening it up and getting it all absolutely set in place a lot easier. But yeah, it's actually starting to look like a kayak. Let it sit out overnight, and just a little concerned about the gaps in between the different forms. You can see there's quite a big gap back there. I had a quick chat to the guys at Denim Marine, and they were saying that the form should kind of be within a few millimeters, which, I mean, this one back here most definitely is not. That's more like a centimeter. They did mention that additional holes can be drilled, into the planks in order to bring it together. So what I've decided to do is I'm going to drill another hole adjacent to the hole in the form here. I'm going to have one of these wires come up through, so the deck wire to come up through this hole, and I'm going to have the side plank wires to go through that other hole. And I think that's going to make sure everything sits together better. I really, want to get this sorted before I close up these ends here, and certainly before I start coating this thing in fiberglass. So let's have a look at that. So just looking at the forward hole form here, and you can see that is pretty bad. There's a pretty significant gap there. So I thought this was a good one to start on and see what kind of difference it makes. At this point, everything is fairly loosely tied together, and if this experiment doesn't work, I'll simply take the wires back out. So let's give this a go. Well, it was a bit of a struggle to get in there, but you can see that the form is now completely flush with the hole, and it's a lot closer. I mean, I could stick my finger under there before. It's less than 1/2 centimetre at any length of that gap now. So I did have to tie those on quite tight, and I will tie on the other side now. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. The sides and the hole are sitting a lot more flush now to the stern form. The permanent bulkhead, it is actually sitting in there pretty good. I don't see any reason why we'll need to do the same for that. But the two rear forms are, again, quite, like, there's quite a bit of a gap in there, especially the back form, or the aft form. So I'm going to do a similar thing to them. I still think you've got to be pretty careful at this point to leave the tires relatively loose. I have had to tighten those up a bit just to bring the deck in there, and then I'm probably going to leave this again for another 12 to 24 hours just to get used to that shape. That's what seems to be a bit of a trick. You sort of tie it in loosely, it gets used to that shape, and then when you do the final bending, bring the ends in, all that kind of stuff, it happens a lot easier. But I am really, really keen to get this right now before we lay any fiberglass on this thing. I want the hole to be completely true before I even start working on the deck, and certainly before I start putting epoxy on, because once you put that resin and fiberglass on, you're locked to that shape, and I just want to be 100% sure that I'm happy with what I've got. So let's get to it and do a whole bunch more tying. Hey guys, well, another issue, this time with the transom. Again, I really think the instructions are deficient here. So we've got the pieces coming up. You can see there's quite a gap there. I think I'm gonna have to drill multiple extra holes in these areas to pull the bottom panels and the side panels together into a nice curve. I'm gonna leave this for a few hours to try to let it settle before I try that, and then I am going to wet the whole thing down before I try. But in particular, the transom. So you can see the side here has a bottom hole where it joins to the side, and then two holes, one in here. But look at the shape of the transom. It's a curve. Like, if I attach this and then I attach down there, there is going to be a massive gap. There's no way that this piece of wood is going to magically turn into that curve. And look at the transom itself. There's a single hole at the bottom for two sets of wires and two holes at the top. I mean, I might be missing something. It's totally possible, but this makes no sense to me. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill a series of holes down here, probably 3 or 4 on each side, and I'm going to really wire the hell out of this thing. Hard to get a good angle on it, but here you can see the transom and what I was talking about before. So I've wired up the top here and here just loosely, and if I do squeeze this in, you can see that it will be able to take the shape, but I'm going to need to have holes, at least 3 here and a couple at the bottom to actually wire this thing in. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to leave it in place and do that, drill the holes now while it's sitting there. So here is how we are looking now. There was quite a bit of effort involved that I didn't film, especially around this end. I mean, you can see how many wires I've added to here and to the transom, just an insane amount of wires. There's a couple of things that I've done that I wish I would have done sooner that made a lot of sense and made this job easier. First of all, instead of tying the transom like I have here to each side, getting a longer tie and going from one side to the other and just clamping the transom on worked a lot better. And also, this is probably my biggest thing, and I didn't do it till the very end. I just cut a V piece of wood here and pushed it in to keep this shape. It was very hard to get this shape, and even here you can see the wood kind of doesn't come together. It kind of overlaps here a little. After much soul searching and screwing around with this thing, I've decided that I'm just going to glass it like that, and then just sand this back, like glass the inside obviously, and then sand that back so it meets. So yeah, not bad. I just want to move on to the deck now. Similar thing at the front. The manual suggests putting this clamp in to hold the bow in, which did work well, but I had to add various additional holes. And you'll notice as well that, and I've seen this even in the instructions, you'll see the top panels don't quite match with the, I don't know how well that's going to show, but they don't quite match there with the bottom panels, which is going to be okay anyway. This front piece needs to be sanded back. This angle is too sharp for fiberglass to go around, so all this has to be rounded out anyway. So I think that should, you know, all work out in the wash. So the next thing to do is to get the forms that we created earlier. I'm just going to wrap those forms in some old t-shirts, and then I'm going to get them up under there to get it sitting in the correct position. I realized that I said earlier when I was creating these forms that the instructions don't really say anything about. They do actually, correction there on page, I don't know, 34, 35 of the manual. It does mention creating the forms, and there's really not much information there about it. It just says something along the lines of cut some V's out of wood and place them under. So still happy I did it. They did need a little bit of adjustment. I did need to widen them a little bit. If you do trace off the forms, just add an extra centimetre or two or inch to them just to make them a bit wider for a couple of reasons. Obviously, you've added the thickness of the boat on both sides, so it should be a little bit bigger than the internal dimensions. Also, you're going to have to wrap those mounts with something. I'm using old t-shirts just so it doesn't scratch up the bottom of your boat. So, yeah. Okay, so the next step was to put the 4 panels that compose the deck together. So that is the stern panel, the bow panel rather, the stern panel and the 2 shears. Now, this I found to be one of the most, or the hardest things so far with the boat, and very, very frustrating. I had a lot of problems and I lost the footage, unfortunately, which is probably a good thing because I wasn't very happy, as past Sam will now eloquently explain. Well, yet again, the instructions have let me down a lot. So putting this deck form together comprises of 2 sentences. One that says, so helpfully, the deck has an elegant shape but goes together easily. Wire the front and rear deck panels together, starting at the front of the cockpit and working back. That's fantastic. Thank you so much for that really detailed piece of instruction. As you can see down here, there is a significant gap between the horn and the cockpit. If I just tighten that, I'm worried it is going to break. What I think is going to happen is as this curves, as the convex shape takes form, that will be able to be wired in. The second absolutely magical instruction says add the shear panels, which is this panel here, and the deck forms. The forward deck form will create much of the deck chamber. Wire this form tightly to the shear panel and deck panel on one side and bend the deck around the form to wire it to the other. Thank you so much, CLC. That is just an absolutely pathetic set of instructions. 2 pictures, one of which was a drawing. The other was black and white and you couldn't tell what the hell was going on anyway. So I've had my beautiful wife, my fantastic helper, helping me with this. I don't know how the hell you're supposed to do it by yourself. What we're going to do is leave it here for today because I just have got the complete and total shits with it, to be totally honest with you. We're going to come back tomorrow, wet the thing down completely because that does help it bend. Try to get the form under there a little bit to give it a bit of shape and try to get this together without snapping it. Of course, these are the biggest panels and the most irreplaceable panels. I'm sure they will charge me a fortune to have these cut out. They're getting shipped to me again if we do make a mistake. And we've got the absolutely magical. You can see the instructions actually go from here to here. They don't even take up a full page. Well done. That's my ring. Okay, so we came back the next day after I'd calmed down from that, and we did get the panels to come together. It was still a struggle, even with my wife helping me and getting those forms in place. I think, again, as I just explained, the instructions are not adequate for this part. However, we managed to get it together, we managed to get it on the boat, and I'm really happy with how it's looking now. It's starting to come together. It's really starting to feel like it's a kayak. So good stuff. I'm going to leave it there today. We've done what I set out to in this episode. We have the sides on the boat. We have the deck sitting on the boat. The next steps in the next episode are going to be to wire the deck in properly onto the hull, make sure the form is in the correct shape, and then start doing some gluing and really committing to the shape of the kayak. So thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.